So in this episode of Make It with Calvin, we're going to use 3D printing to try and fix a part on Jimmy's travel trailer that he has been able to locate. So let's dive into it. So this is, well, we're looking outside of it, but this is part of Jimmy's travel trailer. And the problem is there's this little part here called the strike plate. It's a simple plastic piece that was missing on one side when you went to pick it up, and despite contacting the company a couple of times, hasn't been able to get his hands on one. So he asked me would I be able to design something up in Fusion and print it, and I said, sure, let me see what I can do. So let me show you how this is used before we go and talk about designing it. Okay, so because it's easier to see up here, this is the strike plate, and it clips into some metal that we'll see in a minute. And pretty much it just takes up the space between the latch mechanism here and that right there, like that. So it clips in there like that to take up the space, but the problem is if it's not there, the door doesn't seal right. So let's go talk about designing it. Okay, so here we are at the set. So to actually design this was a little bit harder than you would think. Now the part itself looks relatively simple, but the problem is there's a lot of pieces that need to be the right size to fit together. Now thankfully there is a little bit of flexibility literally and figuratively in the system, but this definitely was not just a very simple Tinkercad project, or Jimmy would have done it himself, his own words, not mine. So what I did is I just sat down in Fusion, pulled out the major dimensions of it, came along with my calipers, figured everything out. And the nice thing is this does have a little bit of flex modeled into it, and this is not a life safety critical part for the travel trailer. So if it's not a perfect fit and the door is slightly wobbly, it's not the end of the world, thankfully. But I want to try and make this as good as I can. So let's go ahead and print these up in a more durable material. Personally, I'm not 100% sure how well PLA would hold up on something like this, and being that Jimmy does like to travel through the desert to go visit his wife's family in Colorado, obviously we want to use something that's going to work. Also, it gets pretty hot down here, and last thing we want is this latch mechanism to kind of deform. So I'm thinking I will probably use PETG. I would use ABS, but the problem is ABS is an absolute nightmare to print with. So I think we'll just use PETG for this, and it should be strong enough. And if for whatever reason it isn't, no big deal. I can get the parts printed over at Sculpteo and get them done on something funky like, I don't know, glass-filled nylon or something that would probably legitimately outlast the lifespan of the travel trailer. So let's get these printed up. I'll probably do it on, oh, you can't see it. We'll just use the, oh, what was playing Jimmy's? We'll just use the Artillery 3D Genius, aka the baby Sidewinder. Knock it out on mine. Go take the parts out there, see how things go, and take it from there. All right, so it's been a couple of days. I finally got the parts printed and I got them installed. So when it came to producing these, a couple of minor revisions were made off camera to it. Mostly the main thing was taking the center and filling it in, and also coming along and putting radiuses or fillets on all the normally sharp edges. The main reason being is it made it a little bit easier to print, and it also improved the print strength. Now for the actual fitment of this, it's quite simple. It just pretty much snaps itself into place. The nice thing about this part is it does not need to be super precise, but it still needed to fit in properly and work. I did do the prints in PETG, as I mentioned, and that turned out quite well. I personally don't suspect any problems with this. If there are, it's easy enough to just order up some parts and say glass-filled nylon from Sculpteo, and they probably would outlive everything on this travel trailer, but that's just my opinion. Now, one other thing I do want to mention is this, I feel, is a good example of where a 3D printed part is actually more practical, especially in the case where you've attempted to locate the part, you can't find it, so okay, I'll make one myself. But I do also want to caveat that by saying there are certain things that I feel from a practicality standpoint probably are not very efficient being 3D printed, but especially when it comes to something that your life or the life of other people are involved, don't chintz out on things like that. This just holds the door in place. It just prevents it from rattling. It's no big deal. The other thing I will say is, if you do have somebody to design something for you, don't act offended if they, want to be compensated for their service. I'm just going to speak from experience here. It has taken me a long time to get as proficient as I am in 3D design, and there are still things that I do not know how to do very well. An example would be like organic modeling. That is not my thing, but props to those who know how to sculpt things and do incredible stuff like that. You guys are amazing. So that's where I'm going to conclude this video here, probably in a couple of months now that we're entering the warm season. I might do an update on this. We'll see how it's doing. Jimmy's probably going to take the travel trailer out a few times, and it'll actually get some use. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Make It With Calvin and found it useful. If you'd like to see more videos like this where we solve everyday problems with 3D printing in a practical sense, let me know. I'll be happy to do them. If you potentially want to see a Fusion tutorial, I'm still on the fence about doing that. Let me know. But hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you here next time on Make It With Calvin.